Live from Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I am Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Federal High Court in Abuja delays till January 7. Decision on bail applications by former Justice Minister Abubakar Malami and family. Plateau State Governor Caleb Mufwang dumps PDP for ruling APC ahead of 2027 elections. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro holds out olive branch to United States, seeks to hold peace talks with President Trump.
In business, Nigeria declares readiness to trade under AfCFTA, cites major milestones in 2025.
And in sports, driver in car crash involving boxer Anthony Joshua and his friends charged on 4 counts bordering on dangerous driving.
Welcome. Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. The Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned to January 7 the ruling on the bail applications filed by former Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, his wife and son. Justice Emeka Wite fixed the date after hearing arguments from both the defense and prosecution counsels. News Central's Joshua Imarayi has the story.
The courtroom of Justice Emeka Nwite at the Federal High Court in Abuja was filled to capacity as former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation Abubakar Malami, his son Abdulaziz Malami, and his wife Asapi Bashir returned to court for the hearing of their former bail applications. Supporters and associates of the first defendant Malami were also present in court. At the commencement of proceedings, counsel to the defendant and senior advocate of Nigeria, Paul Daudu, urged the court to grant his clients bail on self-recognizance and other liberal terms. Daudu argued that the offences are not capital in nature, bailable, and that the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction.
The prosecution on their own part, rather than proceed with the matter, knowing fully well that they do not have any right of reply, insisted that they needed time and they needed an adjournment for them to respond to what we had found. But taking into consideration the nature of the application, which is an application which is strictly a discretionary one, and based on what we had already earlier filed before the court, we drew our further affidavit and proceeded to take the application.
Counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ekele Iheanacho, opposed the bail applications, arguing that the defendant posed a flight risk. He further told the court that granting bail could lead to interference with witnesses or tampering with evidence.
After hearing argument from the defense and the prosecution counsel, Justice Emeka Nwite has adjourned to the 7th of January to rule on the bail application filed by the defendants. As a result, the former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, his wife and his son will remain in the custody of the Kuje Correctional Facility, pending when the ruling is delivered. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Thank you, Joshua. Still on legal matters, the court in Abuja has granted the Bauchi State Commissioner for Finance, Yakubu Adamu, who faces 4.65 billion naira laundering charges filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Judge Emeka Wite set bail at 500 million naira with 2 sureties for Adamu and his corporate co-defendant. Despite the bail ruling, Adamu may not be released immediately as he remains under an existing remand order at Kuje Correctional Center in Abuja until January the 5th. The EFCC also arraigned Adamu and a group of former and 7 Bauchi state officials on $9.7 million terrorism financing charges on Wednesday. The court ordered their continued detention pending a hearing on their bail applications scheduled for Monday. To politics. Governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, has been presented with a membership card of the All Progressive Congress in Jos, the Plateau State capital. This comes following his defection from the People's Democratic Party. The card was presented by the Plateau State chairman of the APC, Rufus Bature. Governor Mutfwang promised to abide by the rules of the party and continue to carry every Plateau citizen along in his administration, irrespective of their ethnic or religious background. He is to hold his annual meeting with the state executive members of the APC today.
I believe God gave us a song. I don't care what tribe you belong to, but as far as on Plateau you live, if indeed you are in love with Plateau, you're my brother. And today I'm beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel. I'm beginning to see that the building blocks of unity that we have been molding, that finally we're getting to put them together. And let's have a united Plateau. Today what I'm seeing is that a new party has been born, the Plateau People's Party, but riding on the platform of the All People's Congress. And that together we will pursue the cause of Plateau.
Let's go now to Jos, where the State Commissioner for Information, Joyce Ramnath, is set to speak with us on the defection of Governor Caleb Mutfwang. Thank you very much for being here. I mean, APC is going on 30 states out of the 36 states of the Federation. This feat was last attained by the PDP in 2003. People are now saying it's not longer a question of whether we are tilting to a one-party state, but we are effectively, even though it's not constitutionally recognized, in a one-party state. What's your thoughts? Your governor is now a member of the APC.
Thank you very much. Compliments of the season to you.
Compliments.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the defection of the governor of Plateau State and, of course, by implication to those in government at this point in time. Well, I do not want to speak on the national defections that are taking place, but let me concentrate on Plateau State to say that for us on the Plateau, we're using this opportunity to achieve something that we have long yearned for on the Plateau. Plateau has been one state that if you have been following and keeping track of our electoral processes or the leadership that we have produced over the years, you will see that there has been a lot of acrimony within the polity, and there's so much apprehension even amongst those that are of the ruling party. And so this move today would be a milestone that we've been able to achieve to build unity for us first as a people on the Plateau, and to be able to align with the leadership at the top. So for us, it's a development that we are hoping that it will bring more for our people on the Plateau.
The argument is that it does not look like it's more for the people, because the party that the governor was in before allowed him to get to the office where he is now, and he has used it to serve the people for the number of years. What is it at the federal level that his defection is going to bring for the people that has never happened before? What is changing? Or isn't this just basically a preparation for 2027?
My dear, it's a preparation for 2027, no doubt about it. But however, for you to even deliver for your own people, you need a platform. And for us on the PDP on the Plateau, not just the Plateau, you are aware of all that has been happening, all the legal battles that the party has been facing in recent times, you can see how it has also affected Ekiti State, where PDP was not also factored. So if we will not take a step in the right direction to ensure that our party is also, our leader is also having a platform to run, the good that he will mean for the people, there will be no platform for us to run on. The party platform is the vehicle to be able to take leadership from one level to another. So if we're not able to have that, he cannot be able to deliver. He has so much to offer to the people, but he needs a platform to be able to run on.
So the other question that comes to mind, I know you are the Commissioner for Information, and it is your job to speak well of the state, but the worry that comes to mind is, do you leave a problem instead of fixing it? That shows a bigger challenge with the way, they would argue, with the way the state will be run. Because if there is a problem with the PDP, wouldn't it have been better to work to fix it and to continue to use that platform to serve the people than to leave a sinking ship, as a lot of persons are saying, to, you know, grab a lifeboat?
Forefront of fixing the party. It's something, he has been at the forefront of making efforts to fix the party, even to reconciliations and all the steps that needs to be taken to fix the party. And the time is of the essence too. We must also have to be strategic. There's no running around it to say that it's not a good step that we have taken. It's not leaving the sinking ship, but of course, while you're making efforts to fix certain things, would you not take the right step to be able to move forward? We will not stay there and then at the end of the day we're blocked out of it. I think it's only strategic for us to take the right step in the right direction. But like I had earlier said to you, what we have experienced on the plateau today is something that we have not experienced on the plateau in over 20 years or thereabout of our existence in the politics of Plateau State. To put certain groups of people to come together under one roof, to be talking plateau at this point, I think for us is beyond just that political fixing that we're doing, but it's uniting the people of Plateau. And that to us is something that we're taking very seriously as an achievement for the government of Barrister Caleb Manasseh.
Joyce, I asked you this question when we started about the drift to one-party state, and you say you don't want to talk about what's happening at the national level, but your expression is that your decision is premised on getting more federal attention, aligning with the federal players so better things can come to the state. You need to speak on the matter of a single party in this country. Are you worried that this defection, not just from Plateau State, but from other state governors, is confirming allegations that the APC is going to dominate and probably exterminate other opponents?
You're likely going to be putting words in my mouth if you say that those were the words I had said. I said there was nothing wrong with us aligning with the national party at the top. However, we are bent on building our relationship on the plateau, have a party system where we can work as a team, and then we have all the issues that we've been battling with in the past put to an end. If you remember our background, where we're coming from too as a political party, because of this allegation, the challenges we're having around our internal party issues, we lost all our seats at the National Assembly. That is not a small loss for us. We lost at the National Assembly. We lost all the seats at the State House of Assembly. Again, this is an opportunity for us to now come together and work as a team. I do not think that it is not a good step to take for the people. Is it safer for us to remain and then we're not able to have anyone future in that part at the end of the during the election processes, or we are able to come together and agree on our within ourselves to have a position that we can work in? Well, to want me to talk about the one-party system, I do not want us to join issues with what is happening elsewhere, but then what do we want? Governance, good governance for us as a people. That is what we're looking for. And we have found that in a leader. And then we are able to support Barrister Caleb Manasseh, of course, to align with the national.
Joyce, thank you for obliging us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you.
Okay, good night. Coming up still, Professor Utomi says to withdraw support for Peter Obi if he runs as vice presidential candidate in 2027. Stay with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Federal High Court in Abuja delays till January 7 decision on bail applications by former Justice Minister Abubakar Malami and family. Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang dumps PDP for ruling APC ahead of 2027 elections. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro holds out olive branch to United States, seeks to hold peace talks with President Trump. Now let's tell you that political economist Professor Utomi has stated that he will withdraw support for Peter Obi if the former Anambra State governor runs as a vice presidential candidate in 2027. Utomi emphasized that Obi, the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, will contest for the presidency following his recent defection to the African Democratic Congress. Utomi also called for a cap of 70 years on presidential and gubernatorial candidates, criticizing recent administrations as government in absentia. Obi's defection, announced in Enugu, marks his declared efforts to challenge the ruling All Progressive Congress and pursue what he described as a rescue journey aimed at unifying and developing Nigeria socio-economically. Former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi has cautioned that Nigeria risks worsening hardship and weakening national unity by adopting tax policies that place heavier burdens on poor citizens. In a statement shared on X, Obi argued that true economic growth cannot be achieved through measures that impoverish the population. He stressed that sustainable prosperity depends on trust, transparency, and productivity, not excessive taxation. The former governor said taxation should function as a fair social contract with clear explanations on how policies affect incomes and contribute to development. He maintained that Nigeria's challenge lies not in raising revenue, but in creating wealth by empowering citizens. The building that was engulfed in flames on New Year's Day has been sealed off by officials of the Lagos State Building Control Agency. While the cause of the fire is yet unknown, the agency says the fire has affected the integrity of the building, which will most likely be pulled down. News Center's lead correspondent, Bernarda Kede, reports.
The charred remains of some electronic items arranged in the building premises as affected traders count their losses. Goods worth hundreds of millions of naira, all gone. While there has not yet been an official statement about the cause of the fire, affected traders believe fireworks from New Year's Day celebration did the damage.
It was, I think, around the 12 midnight of the first, that crossover night, that I was called, because when this thing started, the plaza has closed. So I was called upon by our security here that the plaza is on fire. So I rushed down here. The information we got is that they threw banger into the complex. And as a result of that, it got fired.
As was the case in other markets recently affected by fire, the lack of firefighting infrastructure in the markets is a major cause for concern.
What I'm selling is electronics, and almost all of them got burnt. The value of it is over 320. Over 320, the value.
320 million, you mean? And how did this fire start? What information do you have about how the fire started?
We still have closed already, but they just call us. Some went to our place and told us that fire is burning. When we go to Ikotu, it happens that it's beyond the control. So even when fire service comes, about 3 local government, Ejibo, Solo, and the Obadore side, when they come, they try what they could. See it, no, it's all to now no avail. Though without their help, the whole building would have gone down. But because of their help, that is why it's be able to cause some areas and burn some areas.
As for the building, an official of the Lagos State Building Control Agency who spoke off camera said the building will remain sealed and then tested for integrity. But from the looks of things, he believes the building will be brought down eventually. Sadly, this is the third fire in Lagos markets in the space of 8 days. Another fire that has caused losses for people selling their wares here within the festive period. The only cry that they have now going forward is that certain infrastructure be put in place such that in times of fire incidences like these, the losses will be at the barest minimum. In Lagos for News Central, Bernard Akede.
Still ahead, Iran warns Trump's intervention in Tehran's protest will be disastrous. We'll tell you more after the break. Do stay with us. Away from Nigeria for a bit, Israel has become the first nation to officially recognize the breakaway region of Somaliland, sparking a diplomatic firestorm in the Horn of Africa. The announcement has drawn sharp condemnation from Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who alleges that Somaliland secured recognition by agreeing to host an Israeli military base and resettle displaced Palestinians from Gaza. Somaliland's foreign ministry has denied these false claims, asserting that their engagement with Israel is purely diplomatic and respects international law. For this, we have a global policy analyst, Alexander von Rugen, and geopolitical analyst, Tebeyeng Echo, joining us. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. Let me start with you, Alexander. A huge diplomatic shift. But the question is, why now? What is Israel trying to achieve with this move?
Well, it's kind of ironic that Israel, which is in a heated battle over Gaza in terms of the eyes of the rest of the world, denying statehood for Palestine, is endorsing statehood for another not so close and distant neighbor. I wouldn't say it's a deflection of what's going on in Israel. I think it's a strategic move. They're using the excuse of military advantage to combat the Houthis near the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb, which is a corridor for arms shipments and pirating and nefarious activities in the Red Sea. That's their official excuse. There's rumors of a deal being made to displace Palestinians from Gaza to Somaliland, which from a practical sense would make sense, but we're not allowed to talk about it. So Israel is flatly denying that right now. As far as security goes, America's largest permanent base in Africa is in Djibouti, which is the neighbor of Somaliland. So I don't really think Israel's presence there is as critical as they may say. The fact that it's coming out of the blue, there's no conflict in Somaliland other than, normal conflicts in the Horn of Africa. But as far as a stable, peaceful state, it's got a better governance, it seems, than a lot of its neighbors.
Tebeyeng, to what extent does Israel's unilateral recognition of Somaliland undermine the African Union's principle of respecting colonial borders?
The African Union's position. And if you look at what the AU did in 2005, its own fact-finding mission reported that and concluded that the fact that the union between Somaliland and Somalia was never ratified and also malfunctioned when it went into action from 1960 to 1990 makes Somaliland's search for recognition historically unique and self-justified. And so it's hard then to argue that it's going to undermine the AU's position of territorial immovability from independence, because Somaliland and Somalia have two distinct internationally recognized borders. So the AU's position is contradictory at this time. And you cannot subject people who do not want to live together because of some myth of sovereignty. There is a need for both Somalia and Somaliland to engage in genuine dialogue in resolving this problem. Israel is just rubbing it in the faces of those countries who recognized the state of Palestine a couple of months ago. I think we anticipated that it was going to be a domino effect with what happened with the recognition of Palestine, that Israel was going to find a way to rub it in the faces of the Western governments and some of the governments in the continent. And Somaliland is providing them that crown that we are here. We are really available for you to recognize us, irrespective of some of the accusations that are coming from Mogadishu about the deportation of Palestinians there, access to the Red Sea, and potential military bases in Somaliland. So I don't think that it undermines the AU's position, because the AU itself had recognized the uniqueness of the situation of Somaliland.
Somalia says it's going to take action. It's not going to lie down. It's made several accusations already, and it's saying they are going to take legal and diplomatic actions against this action. But let's be real. What are their options really in challenging this declaration by Israel?
Is that back to me?
No,
I mean,
Alexander.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Well, the legal ramifications pursuant to the 1933 convention, which it's the declaratory theory of statehood. There's 4 conditions for that. It's defined borders. It has those defined borders. It has a permanent population. It has a government that's functional. They have a constitution. They've operated since 1991, since the revolution, 30 years as such, and they've done it with good governance, other than Somalia, which has been described as a failed state in Mogadishu. So let's not let people in glass houses throw stones. Do they meet the legal criteria pursuant to the convention? Yes. In 1960, when they got their independence from England, Somaliland was declared a state. They merged with the Somaliland, which was an Italian colony 5 days later. They didn't get along. That's back in 1960. They didn't get along. They had a 10-year civil war. In 1991, they then declared their independence, but it's not been officially recognized by the UN. And now here we are. But other than their strategic location, the fact that they've governed themselves quite well, there's no conflict there. This is not a conflict resolution of support. I think Israel's trying to score some points, and it's also showing the AU that they're wrong, as my colleague indicated. I think he's correct on his point as well. Does it instill fear in the AU in other situations? Well, you have the Western Sahara being under rule by Morocco. You have conflicts, obviously, in Sudan. Ethiopia is going through its turmoil. You have Biafra in Nigeria, which could be a contestation over oil. This is not too unusual, but it is a clear case of having already been a state. Palestine was never declared a state. That's one mistake the British colonialists did when they allowed Israel statehood. They should have granted it to Palestine at the same time. It would have resolved a lot of conflicts.
All right, Tabayan, let's talk a bit about strategy. Somaliland sits just on the Red Sea. They're talking about access to the Red Sea. They're talking about shipping. They're talking about ports. Is there a bigger picture that we are not seeing that's made Israel to make this announcement?
Absolutely, it's not Israel alone, but to dovetail to what my other colleague is saying, you also have a similar situation in the Cameroons with the war in the 2 English-speaking regions called Amazonia, with territorial boundaries that were set in the 1960s. So it could also be a domino effect. But to answer to your question, you have to understand that the recognition of Somaliland threatens no continental-wide catastrophe, though. The truth is simpler. The Somaliland, 6 million people in that place now are being held hostage, not in principle, but because it threatens economic interests, specific economic interests. Djibouti needs them unrecognized to preserve port monopoly because they are practically controls the commercial activities of Ethiopia through the Red Sea. You have Somalia needs them unrecognized because of its territorial claims and the control of resources and even the coastline that they have not controlled for the past 34 years. You have Egypt, which is also using its military collaboration with Somalia as leverage in Ethiopia because of their long-standing Nile arguments. And you also have Turkey that has also condemned that. It's not strange that the president of Somalia went directly to Turkey. Turkey also has huge investment in Somalia, and they have a huge military presence. They are also seeking access to the coastline. And I think they are even going to begin sourcing for oil and gas in that coastline. So if you look at it, it's not just what Israel is doing, but what are the potential domino effect for countries in that Horn of Africa. You have China, who has a huge military presence in Djibouti for control of the Horn of Africa. You have the US that is also very interested, like the other colleague said. Even though there's a military base in Djibouti, but they see the port of Berbera as strategic and critical in that area. So you see the US came out and was ambiguous, really did not say anything. They say they maintain their previous position of not recognizing Somaliland, but their silence alone is key because they're already making a lot of engagement in the region, potentially moving the base in Djibouti to Somaliland. So we should look at
okay. Just wrap up your thought, yeah.
No, we should look at it as the global positioning of geopolitical powers in the region, not just Israel.
Okay, you mentioned China, and it's curious that the foreign ministry said they did not agree with the decision of Israel and said no country should encourage or support other countries' internal separatist forces for its own selfish interests. My question would be, looking at the bigger picture here, what does it mean for international law? Can a country like Israel just unilaterally recognize a breakaway region just the way it's done now?
It goes back again, if you consider...
No, the question is for Alexander, please.
Well, I think I've touched on that already. I mean, the precedent was set. It's not just deciding one day, oh, we're going to support statehood for this area. I think a lot of people are nervous about that, but they did set a precedent with having statehood back in 1960. They've been basically run as an independent government for the past 30 years or since the 60s. So you can't, you got to compare apples to apples here. You have to ask yourself, why now is Israel suddenly taking this stance? Are they looking for extra investments? What favoritism are they going to get? I think that the theory that it might be to displace Palestinians is a good one, and it's a logical one. It's a predominantly Muslim country. It's not that far from Israel. And here's another fact. All of Israel's neighbors, Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, they don't want any more Palestinians to come in. You know, they could argue, well, by inviting Palestinians, they're supporting Israel's displacement and takeover of Gaza. But I think it's much more deep-rooted than that. They've all had their relative problems with Palestinian military groups in their countries.
All right, so, quickly, in 30 seconds, if you can just tell us your thoughts on the implications Africans should be looking at with this declaration, if any.
Other than
the African governments with internal contradictions, Cameroon, for example, you have Nigeria with the Biafra situation, have to be very, very careful. we're entering a phase in history where a single country can come in and torpedo whatever diplomatic relationships that have been established and undermine the status quo. So you can see more and more regions begin to agitate for self-determination, because if they have resources, strategic resources for that matter, then a government from any of these countries can come in and say, yeah, we're going to recognize them and establish some kind of economic or diplomatic relations with that country. I'm looking at the Gulf of Guinea, which is also very strategic. Is that what is going to happen with the situation in Cameroon? So we have to be very careful with what is going on.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure as always.
Thank you so much.
To one of our top stories, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has indicated openness to dialogue with the United States on drug trafficking, oil and migration, while declining to comment directly on reports of a recent U.S. strike on Venezuelan territory. Speaking in a televised interview, Maduro adopted a conciliatory tone, even as he repeatedly claims that Washington is seeking to undermine his government to gain access to Venezuela's oil resources. His comments come amid sustained U.S. sanctions and an expanded military campaign targeting alleged drug smuggling operations linked to Venezuela. President Donald Trump has warned that the U.S. would intervene if Iranian authorities shoot and kill protesters demonstrating against worsening economic conditions in the country. The U.S. president said his country was locked and loaded and would act if peaceful protesters were violently suppressed by Iranian forces. The warning followed days of nationwide protests across several Iranian provinces, with some demonstrations turning deadly after clashes with police on Wednesday. Iranian officials have swiftly rejected President Trump's comments, issuing strong warnings against any U.S. interference.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Now we look at business. The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment says Nigeria is substantively ready to trade across Africa under AfCFTA preferential terms, having fulfilled key legal and institutional obligations. In its Nigeria AfCFTA Achievements Report 2025, the ministry said relevant protocols on trade in goods, services and digital trade have been gazetted. Trade Minister Jumoke Oduwole said reforms now reposition Nigerian businesses for better market access across the continent. Nigeria became the first AfCFTA member to review implementation at the 5-year mark, ratified the digital trade protocol and launched an air cargo export corridor. Let's also tell you that the Ministry of Finance says it will establish a central investor desk and deepen partnerships with banks and fintechs as part of Nigeria's 2026 growth agenda. This is aimed at shifting the economy from stabilization to expansion. And the Minister of State for Finance, Doris Uzoka Anite, said the strategy focuses on scaling output, mobilizing private capital, and positioning Nigeria for a $1 trillion gross domestic product by 2036. The plan rests on macroeconomic predictability, clear sectoral investment pathways, and disciplined execution. Priority sectors include energy, agribusiness, manufacturing, housing, healthcare, and digital services. Business news continues after the short timeout. Now to some breaking news. The Rivers State Executive Council has approved a 1.8 trillion naira budget proposal for the 2026 fiscal year. The approval was granted at the State Executive Council meeting held on Friday evening. Briefing journalists after the meeting, the newly sworn-in Special Advisor to Governor Siminalayi Fubara on economic matters and social development, Professor Peter Obi, said the budget, tagged Budget of Resilience for Growth and Development, was designed to enable the state to complete and advance key projects in critical sectors. Looking at stock markets, the equities market sustained its bullish momentum as the all-share index rose 0.57% to close at 156,492.36 points, lifting market capitalization to 99.94 trillion naira with a differential of 0.57%, and of course keeping the market firmly on an upward trajectory. We look at sectoral performance, starting with the banking sector that actually led the rally with 2.32% gain, driven by strong buying interest in major lenders like Zenith Bank and GTCO as investors rotated back into high cap financial stocks. Insurance followed closely, advancing 2.07%, supported by renewed demand for counters like ICO, and we also see that oil and gas climbed 1.38%, reflecting improved sentiment and accumulation in select stocks. Consumer goods edged up 0.21%, while industrial goods also in that rank closed flat anyway, indicating an overall session showing broad-based buying strength. That's it on business. I am Likon Obanjo.
And in sport, the Ogun State Police Command has confirmed that Kayode Adeniyi, the driver of the Lexus SUV involved in the widely reported accident of renowned boxer Anthony Joshua, has been charged to court. According to a brief statement issued by Oluseyi Bamisheyi, the Ogun State Police Public Relations Officer, Adeniyi was arraigned on Friday before a magistrate court sitting in Shagamu, Ogun State, with the case adjourned until January 20, 2026. The police did not provide additional details to the specific charges filed against the defendant or circumstances surrounding the accident. However, the statement revealed that Adeniyi is now in police custody as investigations intensify. Away from that, Nigeria's Super Eagles continued preparations for the knockout stage of the 2025 African Cup of Nations on Friday evening, with 25 players taking part in the training session. The session, held at the team's base in Morocco City of Fez, saw fullback Ryan Alebi-Oshun present but unable to participate as he continues to recover from a leg injury. The team has, however, suffered a setback, with striker Cyril Dessers ruled out of the tournament due to a thigh injury. The forward has returned to his club for further treatment. Midfielder Tochukwu Nnadi also missed the training session after coming down with a cold, though the situation is not believed to be serious. Addressing the players, Coach Eric Shell stressed the importance of moving from the group stage, reminding the squad that the knockout phase offers no room for complacency as the Super Eagles target a deep run for the AFCON 2025. The Super Eagles are preparing for the round of 16 encounter against Mozambique on Sunday night. Meanwhile, Mozambique's President, Daniel Francisco Chapo, has promised the members money if they beat Super Eagles of Nigeria in the round of 16 of the 2025 African Cup of Nations. Mozambique qualified for the knockout stage of the AFCON for the first time, despite being drawn in a group that has heavyweights like Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon and Gabon. The members lost their opening match to the defending champions 1-0, but secured qualification after recording a shocking 3-2 victory over Gabon in the second match, their first in their history. Mozambique President Daniel Chapo has applauded the players for their historic feats in the nation's history. Chapo, in a bid to motivate the players against the superior opponent like Nigeria, promised a bonus of 500,000 medical per man, which is about 11.3 million naira, to beat the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Entertainment news is up next with Kate.
Tonight, in the world of entertainment, Nigerian music superstar Burna Boy has set a new global milestone, recording the biggest streaming year ever by an African artist on Spotify, closing out 2025 with nearly 2 billion streams across its catalog. According to Spotify data, Burna Boy's consistent output, strategic touring, and strong catalog visibility helped push his streaming figures past all previous African records. Industry watchers say these achievements reflect the growing global appetite for Afrobeat, even without a massively viral hit, and highlight how catalog rotation and touring can drive sustained streaming success. Global music television giant MTV has officially shut down its remaining 24-hour music channels, closing a chapter that began in 1981 and spanned more than 4 decades. Paramount Global confirmed that 5 iconic channels ceased broadcasting worldwide by December 31, 2025, as existing distribution contracts expired. The move effectively ends MTV's original role as a 24-hour music video broadcaster. The main MTV channel will, however, remain on air, but will now focus primarily on reality TV and non-music entertainment. Now that's it on entertainment news for tonight. My name is Kate Adeogun.
And that's the news tonight. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts using the number being displayed now on your screen. You can do that as well by following us on all social media platforms at News Central TV. We're live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. Good night.